Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the Text and Dates webinar. See people already on here. That's awesome. Wow, okay, a bunch of people. That's cool. So I'm gonna give you kind of a little rundown of what to expect, what you're gonna get out of all this, and then we'll crack right into it because I have a lot of content I want to get through. So I'm gonna blow through it quick because there's a lot of stuff. Okay, so what are you gonna get? First of all, I'm gonna give you kind of a general idea of text game in general, what my journey was, what my process for learning text game is, what you can kind of expect in terms of that. But I'm not big on generalities. I like specifics, especially for this particular format. I want to give you guys stuff you haven't seen before. So specifically, I'm going to talk to you about how to get numbers that won't flake on you. I'm going to give you an example of that. I'll give you an infield example for that. How to deal with shit tests. And I'll give you a couple examples for that from various sort of like things that hit the shit test theory a few different ways. Deal with how to deal with silence. I know that's a big one. You guys send out a text, you get nothing back, and you're like, what the fuck? So how do you deal with that? How to deal with flaky. I'm going to show you one example of a particularly flaky girl and how I actually flipped the script so that she ends up coming around, going on a date, and actually chasing me. And then finally, how to deal with dates, something I kind of excel at. I've kind of boiled that down to a science over the years in game. I'm going to give you an infield example of that as well. So it's a lot of infield, a lot of text examples, a lot of really concrete stuff. And there's going to be a lot of theory, but it's going to be very, very concrete. And everything I say, I'm going to give you an example for. But before I crack into the examples and all that kind of stuff, let me give you a little bit of my sort of like text and phone history. And first off, I want to say text game and phone game is the most important thing you can do in game if you want to get results. It absolutely is, okay? I always ask people, like, do you follow up with your numbers? And the guys who say yes to that get laid. The guys who don't say yes to that do not get laid, all right? It's so, so, so critical. I cannot emphasize the importance for you enough. This is it. I mean, obviously, you guys are on here, so you know that. You guys are going out, you're getting numbers, you're frustrated with it. But I just do want to emphasize that super, super exorbitantly. When I first started out in-game, texting was pretty new. Right, it was the phone, right? I remember I'd be calling from the dorm room in my phone to the other like campus dorms and had shitty phone game and whatnot. And I practiced and worked on my phone game, got it to the point where I was really, really good. And now I'm at the point where if I get a girl on the phone, I can get a date out of that about 95% of the time. It's like crazy, crazy, crazy conversion. And that's right then and there. Never mind like the future and what I mean. Right then and there on the phone call 95% of the time. So it's pretty crazy. But I didn't start out learning text. And then I took a little hiatus from game. I was already teaching, played poker for 4 years. And that's when like, it used to be that girls kind of didn't respond to texts, or kind of didn't pick up the phone, but they'd respond to texts. And then like about 4 years on, it was like girls just like stopped responding to phone calls, stopped picking up, and you just had to text, right? And so I had to teach myself text from scratch. And I went through all the struggles that you went through. I went through getting the silences. I went through the girl being super on and like effusive in the first text, and then you ruin it with the next text and never hear back from her. So I went through all that different stuff. And I, meticulously, formulatively, because, I'm like the nerd of pickup. I figured out exactly how to do it. And that's what I'm going to share with you is my full system. I'm going to share with you kind of like the tidbits that I can within about an hour or so today of the system. But then I do have a full system as well. Okay, so another thing that I want to emphasize to you guys is dates are amazing. Dates are where it's at with game, okay? Now, pulling is great. Pulling is very epic. I've pulled a shit ton in my life. But I want you guys to know, I actually slept with 60 girls in my life before I pulled my first girl same day, right? So I learned on dates first. And dates are amazing because you have perfect logistics. If you're good at it, I can pull girls home from dates about 80 to 90% of the time, right? You get the girl on a date, you get her home. There's no girls interfering. She has time set aside for you. You have that intimate window. So dates are the shit, right? So I want to show you how to get more dates. And then I'm going to show you kind of how to do the dates. All right. So just understand that we talk a lot about pulling in the pickup community, but dates are kind of where it's at. If you want really consistent results and you want like real abundance. I mean, you can go out and like you guys have seen, I did the 23 numbers in 2 hours thing. You get 23 numbers, you follow up with those for dates. You get, tons of dates. You get like, half a dozen dates from like 1 day's efforts without barely any follow-up. That's crazy. That's better than a pull. Okay. So I just want to emphasize that's you guys, because a lot of guys are like, oh, I don't do dates. Numbers suck, whatever. Well, if you learn to do them right, they won't. Okay. Let's see. What else? Okay. So yeah. So basically I want to save you guys the frustration that I had, right? I went through years and years learning text game. I want you guys to be able to do this within, what I learned in years over months or even weeks, right? Save you that frustration, save you banging your head against the wall. And just to let you guys know, I do have a text game program. I've never announced it to the world, but I'm announcing it for the first time to you guys. So I do have that, and I'll tell you, I have kind of a special offer for you guys on that I'll tell you about, at the end of this all. But for the next hour, I just want to give you guys value. I just want to give you guys like a bunch of text game value, a bunch of text game examples, some date stuff, that kind of stuff. All right. And then again, as a thank you to you guys for coming out, I do have a special deal for you guys at the very end of it all. But with that said, I want to just crack into a lot of the value stuff. And along those lines, I kind of want to solicit from you guys, what are your biggest issues in texting? Because I know what I hear from people. I know what people tell me on immersions, what people tell me whenever I'm touring and at events and that kind of stuff. But what are the biggest ones you guys have? Like if you guys are having, I'll give you guys kind of a little code here, right? If you guys are having trouble dealing with girls give you a lot of silences, I want you to shoot like a little S, put a little comment S in the box so I can see those. If you have problems with girls flaking on you, put like an F for flaking in the box there. I want to see who has problems with flaking. Who has issues with shit tests. Since I already used S, we'll use T for shit tests, for tests. And then finally, if you're just confused in general, you're just overall like, wow, just like, there's like the craziest like string of letters coming down here right now. It's pretty crazy. Okay, cool. And then guys who are just lost and confused in general, like you just don't even know where to start. Like you just want a system, you want like to not be lost in the dark. Or like you see the girl's text and you're just like, what the fuck is this? What am I, like, where do I even begin with this? Put in a question mark or some question marks for that, just so I can get an idea. Okay, cool. So I see a lot of silence, a lot of flaking, some testing. Cool. All right, lots of different stuff here. Okay, cool. So somebody's like just filling it with silences. All right, that's the opposite of, oh shit, that's a lot of question marks. Okay, cool. Good to see. Okay, cool. So we're dealing with stuff that you guys are really dealing with. That's good to see. All right, so I want to crack into, first off, text game starts before you get the number, all right? Text game starts with good in-person game. So if you do a good job in person, text game gets much easier. So I'm going to show you guys in a minute an example of, I do a set, and it's a pretty quick interaction. I don't even really get to know the girl that much, right? We don't exchange a lot of biographical details. We don't get into each other's innermost hopes and dreams and secrets. But even so, I'll show you the text afterwards. It's very positive. It's like not like I'm trying to make plans with her. It's like she's trying to make plans with me. And the key distinction I want to throw out to you guys, because there's a lot of things that are thrown out in terms of how to get a solid number, and they're very valuable things. Stay 5 minutes after is good. Qualify the girl's huge. Those kind of things are very, very important. But people are very focused on comfort. They're like, value, get the number. Comfort will get her to go out with you. But people don't understand what comfort is. Okay, comfort does not mean that she's totally comfortable with you. In fact, totally comfortable with you is a bad sign. If she's totally comfortable with you, that means she's not emotionally aroused. Okay, that means she's almost bored. You don't want that. Okay, you do not want the girl to be bored. What you want, the kind of comfort that you want, is she's comfortable, that hanging out with you will be a win for her rather than a loss. Okay, so it does have to do with value, and it has to do with validation as well. Now, it means you can't be a total like sleaze bucket that she doesn't trust. She can't feel like she's going to go like get kidnapped if she hangs out with you. But understand that comfort itself has a lot more to do with value and vibe than you might think. And a lot of guys, they get too comfortable and they spend way too much time just like going in these bullshit loops with a girl, all right? So with that said, I'm going to crack into the example and then we'll break it down from there. So I'm going to show you this infield example and then we'll discuss. Give me 1 second to pull it up. Let's do this. All right. So we got the example coming here. I'll make it full screen for myself just in case that helps for you guys.
Excuse me. Hi. Sorry. That was adorable. You look. I don't know what to do. You look very cute. That was so sweet.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Who are you? What is your name?
Nice to what?
Todd.
Todd.
Yes,
yeah,
it's very American.
It's American. Yeah.
Yeah. Where are you from? Here? Are you from?
Yeah.
Beautiful. It's good to meet like a local person. Yeah. I'm staying over in like the tourist area, so I meet all these people from. But I haven't met like actual Czech people. Huh?
Do you like French?
So far, yeah. So far. I like that you sell your city well. It's beautiful.
It's a beautiful city.
It is actually like, okay, so I'm from New York. And you're so happy. And everything there is new, right? Brand new. Everything here is so old. But it's like, it's so nice. So nice and old.
It's Old Town, yeah.
Yes. What are you doing right this exact second? Because I think you're very interesting.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
You are very kind. I'm going to meet my friend.
You're going to meet your friend. That's unfortunate. How long do you have? Because I seriously very much want to grab a quick drink with cute Czech girl and find out if she's as sweet and amazing as I think she is.
Oh, that's so cute.
Is that crazy? It's a little crazy, but it's cute.
Maybe tomorrow.
Okay, what are you doing tomorrow? What's your plans?
Tomorrow evening, nothing.
Evening, nothing? Okay. Okay, I have something at 7, but are you free in the afternoon?
Afternoon.
Okay, let's do it. Like maybe late lunch or something. Do you have a phone number or or WhatsApp? What do you do here?
Number.
Number? Okay, let's do it.
I will give you my number.
Okay, I assume it's plus.
That's right.
Hopefully it'll go through. We'll see. If so, save me.
You're checking it.
No, just because sometimes with the Europe numbers, I don't dial them the right way. Okay, perfect. Perfect. You're adorable. Come here. You're so cute. You're very shy too. It's good.
I am.
It's okay. It's Todd. Todd. Todd.
Todd. Yeah.
Yes, I will message you and tomorrow.
Okay.
Looking forward to it.
Good.
Nice to meet you. Yes.
Okay, so first off, my assistants always kind of joke with me that like all the time I talk to the girl, it's like hi, and they're like hi, can I suck your dick? That comes from good game and good vibe and that kind of stuff in general. But I do tend to get that a lot. But what I want to kind of emphasize there is that she and I know almost nothing about each other. All right, and yeah, I'm able to be very positive and very man to woman because she's giving me good responses. But it's not like we know each other's hopes and dreams. It's not like she has this like great like picture of who I am as a person or whatever. But everything she has about me is positive, right? My vibe is good. My body language is good. Vocal tonality, all that kind of stuff's good. What I'm conveying is good. And I'm conveying everything in just subtly high value ways, right? I'm busy. I have things going on. I have a life, right? Everything about me says this is a cool, fun guy. There's no negative, that kind of thing. That's what you need more than anything in a quick interaction. And then also, I didn't overtly qualify her. I didn't overtly qualify as in like making her jump through my hoops, but I did qualify her in the sense that I found things interesting and cool about her, right? And in this case, because her vibe is generally pretty positive towards me, I don't have to do any crazy overt like hard qualifies, all right? But I do want you to notice like there wasn't a ton of like, again, logical exchange, not a ton of like traditional comfort, but there's the comfort in terms of vibe. And I will show you guys now the text, the first text from that girl, and it looks like this. So as you can see right here, hey, it's Todd from New York, and she's immediately like, hey, so what time tomorrow? Her name from Prague, right? So she is immediately actually making plans with me, and that's ideal, right? That's the perfect scenario, is when your in-person game is good enough that you actually don't need to have your text game be that good. That's ideal. Now that won't happen all the time, right? Which is why text game is so critical. But it's important to not miss the layups. And actually within the text game program, we go further with this one. You can see all the way to making the date and whatnot. But what I want to emphasize here is that it's that from that first text, she's already chasing. She's already very bought in, right? That's very critical, right? And again, not because of a lot of traditional comfort. Did you guys? Somebody said they can't hear. Let's see. Okay, good. I'm just making sure you guys can see and all that kind of stuff. Okay, cool. You guys are seeing it. That's good. Okay, cool. So somebody said they couldn't see anything, so that confused me, but everybody else seems to be seeing fine, so that's good. All right, cool. All right, so so that's an example of just getting a solid number very quickly. It's like a 2 or 3 minute, like, you know, I think it was like 2 minutes in total, but solid to the point that she's texting you the next day, right? And again, remember, comfort, not what you think it is, all right? Comfort is not that she knows a lot about you. Comfort is that she has a vision in her head of what hanging out with you will be, and it's a positive vision. So that's what you should be thinking about in terms of comfort in the set, not we need to exchange a bunch of facts, okay? Very critical distinction. Make that, you know, make that stick in your brain, all right? So that's a little bit on getting the number. Obviously, this is just scratching the surface. I can't go like so deep on every bit of it in an hour program, but that's a thing that I don't think anybody's ever really emphasized before, so I wanted to share that with you guys. All right, next up, let's talk a little bit about shit tests and silences. All right, so I want to show you guys another example here. Give me a second to bring it up. Okay, should be this one. Hang on. Okay. Okay, so here we go. The girl says, I say I'm unquestionably amazing. So you see I'm unquestionably amazing. That's good. And the girl gives me the shit test. I didn't get that I'm full of myself vibe yesterday, but I'm starting to get that vibe from you today. Okay? That's definitely a shit test, right? And shit tests are interesting because, first of all, you need to understand that shit tests are positive. Okay? If a girl's giving you a shit test, that means she likes you. First of all, she didn't give you silence, right? She didn't respond with silence. She responded with something. So that's very positive. But secondly, it means she's emotionally engaged. So get that. Thirdly, though, understand that every shit test, it's not like she's coming up with this convoluted thing to test you. The reason the shit test comes about is that she feels her frame threatened in some way, or she feels a little uncomfortable. So a lot of times they'll tell you what they need from you. So here she's telling me, A, keep your frame, pass the shit test. That's the most important part. But she's also telling you, don't be quite so cocky, right? So if I were to respond with something super cocky and over the top here, it wouldn't be good, even if it passed the frame, right? So what I need to do, is to pass the test, but at the same time, make sure that I'm giving her what she needs, right? So I drop the cockiness a little bit after. So I say, how did it take you so long? You seem so perceptive, kind of a cheeky response. Now she gives me another shit test. Guess the alcohol may have affected my ability to read people, right? But it's still positive-ish, right? And so here I'm gonna flip it back on her, and this is a very big point as well. When you get shit tests, if you just pass, live or in text, but especially in text, you'll just keep getting shit tests. But if you put it back on her and challenge her back, that's when she's gonna actually start qualifying herself to you or start chasing you. So here I put it back on her. Yeah, you have a point. I thought you were clever and charming, but that was probably just the alcohol as well. So now, instead of just being like, oh, I can freely shit test this guy, she's getting shit back. So now she has to respond. So she goes, maybe or maybe not. Guess we're just going to have to evaluate each other the next time we encounter each other, right? And so now she's actually suggesting that we move things towards a meetup. So I've gone from the shit test to actually a very positive suggestion here. One other very key thing I want to point out, and this is absolutely critical, when you pass shit tests in text, you do not do more than the shit test, right? You don't pass the shit test and ask a question, because then it's like, oh, I wasn't sure if my answer was good enough. Let me try and give you something to work with. Or especially, this is something guys do so much, one of the biggest student mistakes I see, they pass the shit test and try and make plans. They're like, haha, here's my clever answer. So, want to hang out? No, don't do that. Please never, ever, ever do that. It ruins all the power of what you just did. Right? It makes it look like, oh, this is some technique I used to pass the shit test. It makes you look needy. It makes you look like you have an agenda. It does so many things wrong, okay? So it's absolutely critical with shit tests not to do that. All right. I'm going to give you one more example of a shit test in a second here. And in this case, I actually go even further. It's like usually in text, you can't ignore the shit test. But in this special case, I'm actually going to do an ignore the shit test via text. So I'll show you an example of that. Give me 1 second. Let me pull up this one. All right, so here, this girl, after my first text, I just texted her Todd, and she goes, Todd, who's Todd? Don't think I ever met a Todd tonight. Well, I know the number's valid. I know it's real because I know that, like, it was a solid set, and she was, like, sober and whatnot, so I'm pretty damn sure it's real. Also, like, if it's not real, what do I have to lose anyway, right? So I know she's just fucking around with me. And think about this. If she cares enough to flirt and fuck around with me, that means she really likes me. Like, she's trying to play games. So I know that I have a lot to work with here. So my response is just eye roll. That's it. A little bit daring, right? Actually, one other thing I want to point out. One reason I'm able to handle shit tests very, very well is that I'm not afraid of silence. Okay, most guys are terrified of silence. They're terrified they'll say something cocky. They'll say something a little bit like risky or whatever, and then they'll get silenced back, and they're like, oh, fuck, then the number's dead. I'll show you guys in a second how to deal with silence. But don't be afraid of silence. If you're afraid of silence, you will never do enough in terms of instigating when you do the shit test. You never put it back on them. You never really get the girl chasing. All right. So I just say eye roll and that's it. She goes, I don't think I like your sass. Bullshit. You don't like my sass. You obviously love my sass. So then now I'm going to put it back on her, right? Remember, putting it back on her, not just passing it, but putting it back. So I say, that's unfortunate. Your sass is what endeared you to me. And again, I'm not trying to make plans here. Not your sass is what endeared you to me. So tell me what we're doing today. It's not your sass is what endeared you to me. So are you free this Thursday? None of that shit, right? It's just pass it. So you're surprising. It's usually what steers people away. And then here, I actually left silence intentionally. And the reason I left silence here is on the initial meetup, we'd actually made tentative plans for the next day. And so here I just left silence. That's another very key technique that guys don't do. I just completely I know she likes me. I know she's bought in. I don't have to respond to this. And so I just am, I guess, entitled and just follow through with the plans we had, right? We established that she was playing games with me. She established that she was full of shit. She looks like the idiot in this interaction, if anything. She looks like she's chasing. So then I just hit her up the next day and wake up. You're in luck. I actually woke up because I told her that day I might not wake up for our plans, but whatever. I was brunch with mom, etc. And then she goes, I thought she'd like some cute stuff, a little bit about her, and then how's your morning? How's your morning? If girls ever start asking you questions, that's very, very positive, especially if they start asking you what you're doing, how your day is, that kind of stuff. That should be a very big green light that they're willing to make plans. And if you look inside the program, I go much longer with this text. I actually do end up making plans with this girl, and we have the date, on film and all that kind of stuff. All right, but you can see the turnaround from her little bullshit game that a lot of guys might just give up or might just qualify themselves or be a little too try hard here. But I do the absolute least possible, right? Kind of pseudo ignore it via text, just eye roll, and you see how it turns it around. Again, remember with the shit test, I'm not trying to escalate. I'm not trying to add more on top of it. I'm just passing it. And also I put it back on her. I'm not just the recipient of shit test. It goes back and forth. Very, very critical points all. All right, so now we talked a little bit about silence, right? I said that part of the reason that I can deal with, hang on one second. Let's see. Okay, cool, just checking. Again, I got one person that had an issue, but I got a lot of other people. Okay, cool. Got it. Okay, cool. How long does it matter between texts is interesting. That's a good question. In general, there's no right or wrong answer for that, but the big thing is you just want to be a non-needy amount of time, and it depends on the text, right? But the big thing with you don't be so fast that it's needy, but you also don't want to wait 3 weeks, right? So, that's it. You would be surprised, though. You'd be shocked how often you can leave a long period of time. I oftentimes leave 4 or 5 days between texts if I'm traveling and stuff like that, and it doesn't even make that big of a difference for the girl as long as you keep the flow good, as long as you're communicating in the right ways. The content and following the right format with the content actually matters way, way, way more than the time. And even if it's frequent, as long as it's the right kind of text, it's not necessarily needy. So that's a good question. A lot of guys ask that, so I felt like I'd kind of address that one. All right, so let's talk about silences. I have a good example here. Let me pull it up for silences. All right, so I want to point out that a lot of people think that as soon as you get a silence that the number is dead. That is not the case, okay? It's not the case at all. There's a lot of different types of silences. Understand that sometimes the girl's just busy, right? How do I know this? I know it because I'm busy. I know it because, I know it because a lot of times I'm texting back and forth with a girl I even like, and I just get caught up in life, and I forget to text her back for a day or two, okay? So if as a guy that's happening, you can imagine these hot girls that are getting hit up crazy amounts. Sometimes it just slips through the cracks. Sometimes they just don't get the text, or it gets mixed in with a bunch of notifications, or they get it and they're busy. So don't get so butthurt and negative when you get a non-positive response or a non-response in text. Sometimes it's not a big deal. You have to look at the overall context. So here the context is that we are kind of going back and forth, not actually making plans at the start, but we're discussing things. So you end up making it out. She's still responding. It's responding to logical stuff. It's totally fine. You end up making it out. It's a little bit risky as a text because it's a text that requires a response. But at this point, the overall vibe has been good, so I think I can get away with it going into this. Now, LOL amateur, right? This is a little gratuitous, but it's something I like to do. Again, we talked in the shit test part about putting it back on them. It's a good text in a way because if she responds to it, she's going to qualify herself, and then she's really in my frame. She's chasing. If she doesn't respond, it doesn't really matter because it's not a text that requires a response. So I really like this text. And I don't even expect her to necessarily respond to it, but it doesn't hurt me if she doesn't, okay? And then in this case, she doesn't, so fair enough. This next text has all the good formats of a good text. It maybe wasn't the absolute best text I've ever sent in my entire life, But it's good in the sense that it's value offering, giving a glimpse into my life. It's conveying something congruent with what we talked about when we met, which is, me going out a lot, partying, showing her around, that kind of stuff. So it's congruent with all that. And so it, again, doesn't require a response. Now, it would have been great if it got a response. I would have preferred a response to this one, but it doesn't require a response. And now, even after this one, it's like 2 texts, no response. A lot of guys are like, oh shit, it's dead. Oh shit, it's dead. We're never getting it back, etc. But you have to understand, but you have to understand that with all this stuff, you have to look at the overall context. The overall context has been really, really positive, okay? And so I don't need to get all butthurt. I don't need to be really like, bent out of shape about it. Okay, so here I'm gonna say this, let's meet up before we both forget how attractive the other one is. Now understand this is like a general thing. It's not it's very important. It's not let's get together like Tuesday at 7. That would be really, really bad here, right? And also it's not, hey, let's meet up, because that sounds really, really like kind of like pushy and whatever. But at the moment it's, sorry, I had a quick interruption, my bad guys. Okay, so, but understand I'm doing this in kind of a fun, funny way. It's not so super direct and needy. There's still a little bit of flirtation, and every single text that you do that escalates, every text you do that moves things forward should have a little bit of conversation and flirt in it. If you ever get to the point where you're just asking for plans, you're doing things massively, massively wrong, okay? So in this case, because it's been good, I can get away with this. Also, what you don't know here is we had a similar exchange earlier in the texting where she went silent, and then I basically called her out on her silence in a funny way, and she responded very positively. So that goes into the girl's text blueprint. I already know she responds to this kind of stuff, okay? But the key point, though, is that sometimes you can be entitled with silence. A lot of guys, if they got this silence, would either give up entirely or they go all the way back to square one, where they'd start just sending these random, like we call them value offering texts, which is a good idea in general. But when the vibe's already been good, if you start doing that, you're starting all the way over again from scratch. It'd be like if you were dating a girl for like a month and you walk up to her and cold approach her. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to go backwards like that. So you need to know where you're at, okay? So in this case, you can see I read the blueprint correctly. She's like, lo siento for the delay, happy hour later in the week. And again, she's making plans with me, right? And so this is a situation where the first time I get silence, I follow the rule, which is just the value offering text. But then the second time, I look at the overall context, I look at things, and I actually break the rule a little bit, but I break it in an intelligent way. And that's because I understand how to read into her texts. I understand how to read the overall flow. And that's a big thing that's key in my texting system is that kind of stuff, all right? So understand that one silence does not mean a dead number. Understand that you can be very persistent. I've had girls that have given me silence at various times, and it's taken months to get them out, especially when I'm traveling. I end up getting them out on a date. No big deal. All right, so don't be so terrified of silence. Silences can be turned around. That's one of the biggest things that when I learned it, it was a massive change to my own text game. Silences can totally be turned around, right? Another thing to understand is just philosophically, understand where you're coming from when you're texting, right? Everything that you do in text, it should come from the frame that she gave you the number, she likes you. All right, a lot of guys get very butthurt by silences. It's like a silence like, oh shit, she doesn't like me anymore. No, just look at the girl's reality. Most of the time, the girl really, really likes you, but she's just busy, or she has other things going on, or she really likes you, but she has friends she's known for 10 years and stuff like that, or she really likes you, but she's a little scared of the awkwardness of meeting a stranger. So it's not that she doesn't like you, it's that you're not a priority yet, right? But that said, act entitled. Take on attractive behaviors, and entitlement is one of those. Take on a little bit of a cocky attitude, because that's attractive as well, right? Stay positive. That's the other big thing. Stay positive at all times in the text. If you start getting negative via text, you're done. Because if you're a little negative in person, they can sense your vibe and know that you're okay. But if you start getting negative in text, they can't tell. They can't tell when you're negative in text that you don't mean it, or that you can send an emoticon or something like that, but they don't really get your vibe the way they would in terms of an in-person interaction. So you should understand that distinction as well, okay? So big things for silence. Again, kind of, scratching the surface, because obviously it can go a whole lot deeper on this, but like things that you might not have known about silence. Number one, if you get silence, offer value, don't ask for a lot. That's a big thing. But beyond that, read the overall interaction. Read what her silence is saying, and be a little bit entitled. Understand that she does like you. She does like you, right? And someone else said, and be patient. That's very important in text too. Be patient. A lot of people are like trying to. I have a whole technique. I'll talk about it briefly. Actually, when we get to the flaking stuff, I'll just touch on it. But it's called like the soft close. But basically, if you could close in one text, but instead you close over like 3 texts, it's actually a much more solid close and it's a much more likely close. And there's very specific ways to do that as well. But yeah, patience is huge in terms of mentality. So I'm glad someone mentioned that. That's a very good thing that you just brought up. How do you use emoticons? That's a whole nother topic that I could talk about for a really long time. But it's a good question as well. I use them. I believe in them, but I don't overuse them. Which I know it sounds vague, but I do use them though. Some guys are like totally anti-emoticon. I do believe in emoticons. You want to convey as much as you can with your communication. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so now we've talked about silence a little bit. Let's talk about flaking, because flaking is kind of huge as well. Let's see what we got here. It's this one, I believe. Okay, cool. So this one is going to be kind of a longer example. So in this case, I'm talking to this girl, trying to get her out on a date, and basically, she lives really far away from me. I didn't really know this, but she lives actually quite far away. And generally, I like to make dates near me, but this is a situation where I was leaving town. Had today only to make the date, and so I needed to make it happen. So I was willing to go to her. I was willing to make kind of an exception to my rule. So here I said, I don't mind as long as I get, this is her name, on her A game at the end of the journey. But if you're not excited to meet up, we can just touch base in a month. So you can understand here, I'm being a little bit pushy for it. I'm actually even being a little bit needy, but at the same time, I'm being a little aloof and saying I don't care that much, right? She's like, I'm far from my A game and it's only 6 p.m. I actually kind of believe this a little bit because all the texts before say she likes me a lot, but you have to understand like you have to put yourself in the girl's shoes a little bit. You have to understand the proposition. So she's talking about like this girl's going to get out of work at like 7 or 8. And she'd have to drive drive a bit. Is New York. She'd have to commute a bit to come see me. And then at the end of it, she's meeting up at maybe like 9:30. She has an hour and a half thing home. Basically, in her mind, if she comes and sees me, it's going to be massively inconvenient, massively awkward. And then if she goes home at the end of the night, she's going to get home really late. But she also like knows me a lot, or knows me and likes me a bit. But like she doesn't feel like she wants to just commit to I'm going to stay over at this guy's place and I'm definitely going to hook up with him. So she feels a little slutty about that, right? So understand that when she's flaking, it's not super negative, but it's pretty legitimate. So I'm trying to help her solve her problem at this point. So again, all this up to you type of stuff where I'm saying, it's saying I care, but I don't care. It's very, very important. I care, but I don't care. I care, but I'm not like too wrapped up in it. So up to you. Just know there's an insanely cute, amazing, and ever so modest man who wants to see you tonight, right? Little bit of cute cockiness. These things don't come along every day. Basically saying like, look, I get it, but don't miss the boat on this one, right? She goes, ever persistent as well, ha. Okay, that's important. That's important. Because essentially when she's saying ever persistent as well, she's saying, dude, maybe you're being a little too persistent, right? She's telling me, okay, that's it, like enough of that. So now I know I need to back off and whatever. So here I'm going to be like, I just dropped the idea of plans completely, and I'm just going to try and get her on a call. And funny enough, because I'm really, really good on the phone, most of the time if I get a girl on a call, good things will happen, right? So I'm very good there. So to me, like getting a girl on the call and getting the date, it's almost the same thing. Right, but to her, it's a much lesser offer, right? So if you like to talk after work, give me a call. If not, then have a good night. No big deal, right? And again, it cannot be butthurt. This is actually bordering on a little harsh, but again, it's all like shrug, don't really care that much, whatever. So that makes it work. And so here, I'll show you the next slide here. 1 second. Let me pull it up. Okay, so here, now she's like, guess you didn't like my joke, huh? I'm definitely struggling. I need to, and this has to do with her, like her work, what she does for work, for about 12 hours tomorrow. If it was any other week, I'd probably make it out. And then you don't see the time because I can't slide it over. But then she like thinks about for a second, like not for a second, for like several minutes, like probably 15, 20 minutes or something like that. And then she goes, I can give you a call when I get home. So now you see she's reacting to me. Why? Because basically I showed a willingness to leave, right? Showing a willingness to leave is massively, massively useful and massively positive, right? I showed that, look, I have other things to do. Not in a mean way, not in a, hey, you suck, because you're not even worth it, because you always want to keep it positive, right? You're texting her for a reason. But you're also saying, like, look, you can take it or leave it, right? So then sure, positive, that's all good. And in this case, she actually did want to call me here, but at this point it was so late at night, and I actually had made other plans. And so normally I just take the call and try and set it up, but at this point I'm like, it's too late at night. It's never going to happen for tonight anyway. So I decided to kind of do something here, which is interesting, which is really put it on her, like actually kind of flake on her, right? Because weirdly enough, if you flake on girls, it'll turn them around. A lot of times if a girl's giving you kind of wishy-washy plans, you can say like, hey, you know what? It sounds like you're busy. Maybe we'll hang out some other time when you're actually free. No big deal. And then she'll all of a sudden be like, actually, you know what? My schedule just cleared up. Or she'll be like, you know what? You're right, but I can do tomorrow. And then she starts chasing you. And that's actually what ends up happening in this case. If you were to continue the text, it actually continues again within the program. I go through the whole text sequence and then the date itself. She actually comes and meets up with me for a date. And when she meets for the date, she actually comes to me. So instead of me making me go out to her, she's flipped around enough, she's chasing enough that she actually comes to me. And then on the date itself, which we also recorded, she comes home with me in less than 20 minutes. So definitely went from flaking to chasing there. And I give a lot of credit to this approach where it's not super bought in, number one, but like, I like you, I'm persistent. Notice the persistence, notice the entitlement that goes along with the persistence. So that's all very, very critical and very important. But at the same time, you are willing to walk away. And then also here, I made other plans. Like, imagine, put yourself in her shoes. Imagine if a girl texted you this, like you were like, kind of didn't know if you could make it, and like legitimately, like you really wanted to see her, but you had other plans. You tried to get out of them, and then you couldn't make it for whatever reason. And she's like, LOL, I gave up on you and made other plans. That'd be like a knife in your gut. You'd be like, oh shit, she went out with some other guy because she couldn't see me. And I didn't say some other guy because that would be too far. But I'm like, hey, I went and saw some other chick. That would be butthurt and needy and try hard, right? But when it's subtle like that, she's gonna imagine it and actually like, oh shit, right? And then she's gonna start responding. In this case, like I said, she actually started chasing very, very hard, ended up making the plans, etc. Okay, so I wanted to show you how I dealt with that situation, which ended up, again, leading to very, very positive things when I actually came back from my trip. All right. Okay, so that's a little bit on flaking. The key thing, again, when we talk about like mentality, you need to understand why she's flaking. She's not flaking because she doesn't like you. She's flaking because she's just unsure, right? And what's going to help her be more sure? Well, more time, more getting to know you, a phone call, massively, massively good. One of the best tools for flaking, which is what I was trying to do there. And had she gotten back to me earlier, like early enough, we still could have made plans. I probably would have tried to do it over the phone. But since she got back to me late, the other thing that definitely does it is like urgency, right? You understand that girls, they like you, they want to see you, but they don't see the urgency, okay? Because for a girl, in her mind, if you have good connection, if you're going to see each other anyway, she's like, well, why don't we just see each other later? Why don't we just go on a date some other time, right? And so there's no urgency. But when she feels like actually the leaving town thing can create urgency, or when she feels like you might be going off the market soon, or you might be losing interest, all of a sudden that urgency can spark her into action. So that's pretty damn huge, okay? Quickly, if you guys have any questions on what I've gone over so far, I have a few more things I want to cover, but I want to just see what questions you guys have really, really quickly. Someone says, like, what if they don't answer the phone? I'm not going to get into that super deep right now, but essentially I have ways of knowing when they will answer the phone and ways of calling at the right time for sure. And then also if they don't answer the phone, usually I will, I'll have in mind some kind of like a text follow-up. Or sometimes, depending on the vibe, sometimes I'll just call and leave it, and that missed call can be the text. If the vibe has been generally good so far, a lot of times you can just leave it hanging and force them to commit. So it's a bit of it can go either way. But the best answer to that is call at the right time. Call at the time when it would be weird if they didn't answer. Let's see. Let's see. Hey, don't delete this from YouTube. That's cute. Should have been asked. How to get a girl to ask you questions. That's an interesting one. Actually, there's a whole module in the program for like how to get a girl to chase. But one thing you notice, just from here, just to go off what you've already seen, notice how when I'm dealing with the shit tests and dealing with the banter, I'm challenging the girls, right? I'm challenging the girls. I'm putting them on the back foot. I'm not the one just being challenged the whole time. That's very, very critical. Also, you'll notice every single time if they ask me a question or whatever they send at me, I never give just the plain boring answer. I always like give it just a little bit of extra spice, right? A little bit of extra personality, a little bit of extra like intrigue or flirtiness with everything I'm doing. Most guys, their text game is either like massively try hard and pointless, right? They're just like doing these like dumb, overly flirtatious, overly bought in, needy kind of things. Or what they do is they do this very boring, very flat text. What you need to do is handle the logical waypoints, handle the progression towards meeting up, but at the same time, make sure that every single text, you're conveying a little bit of your personality. You're letting the girl get to see you a little bit. So that can be flirtation, it can be a little bit of humor. It can be like sharing sharing a piece of your life or a fact about yourself, whatever. But we want to make sure that you're always like increasing the overall dynamic of the relationship at the same time as you're moving it forward, right? If you're ever just moving it forward, the girl will get like, that's a bad experience for her because it feels needy. If you're ever just like talking and flirting and not moving it forward, then a lot of times it just goes nowhere. So it's that balance where every text, it needs to be short, it needs to be concise, but it needs to do at least a tiny bit of both, right? Every text should have a purpose, but it should also have a sort of like purposelessness to it, right? It should appear as though it's not completely purposeful. It should appear like, I guess, purpose without agenda would be the right way of saying it, right? So every text should have that. And you can see with every text that I put out, and also like within the program, every single text that I do, there's always that. There's always extremely purposeful. It's always like someone said to you, am I into the dick pic scene? I have one video in the program about like it's funny about dick pics. That's a funny question. It's a given. Every time that question was gonna come, it had to. That's pretty funny. How to create drama through text. That's a little similar to what I was talking about with the shit test, which is putting it back on them as well, right? Very, very important. I'll show you kind of like more in depth how to do that and all that stuff. Okay, let's talk a little bit now about dates, because the thing is, like, getting the girl on a date is great, right? Getting a girl on a date's great, but that's a skill too. I know when I first started learning game, I went on 9 months worth of dates before I got my first kiss, right? It sucked, right? Actually, for me, it was exciting. Something like, oh, I'm getting dates. I'm getting somewhere. I'm making progress. And you should have that same mentality too. But at the same time, I was like, shit, it'd be nice if these went somewhere too. And then I got to the point where I got really, really good at dates. Really good at escalating, taking girls home really, really well. And then I got to a point I got too good at dates, and it became almost like fake, and then I had to back it off a little bit. But there's a lot of things that I do in dates that are very, very powerful and very, very good. Off the top of my head, a couple of the ones that I do on dates is, number one, I make dates intentionally boring. And the reason for that is that girls don't notice the overall emotions. They don't notice like what the actual emotional state is. They notice the change in the emotional state. Okay. So if things start out really shit, like really boring, and get to pretty good, the girl feels as though that's like amazing. They're like, the longer I spend with this guy, the better I feel. Every moment we get together, we get closer. On the other hand, imagine going all like high energy and really cool and super funny and amazing. And then you have kind of like a dry period in the middle. She's like, oh, well, I thought I liked this guy, but I just like, I'm not feeling it anymore, right? So she doesn't, even if at that time, that dryish spell was still better than what the upward spell was, okay? So understand that girls notice the change more than the actual emotion. So I like to actually like go in very, very low energy and actually make it a little awkward. One of the things I do, it'd be a long story to kind of get into it in full, but I use the construct of the date, like the social expectations of the date, to my advantage, so that they have to start gaming me instead of me gaming them. I use it to help me flip the script. The other thing that I do really, really well on dates, though, and this comes from learning proper pickup, basically, and learning how to pull girls home, is I know how to pull girls home on the date, right? I know how to structure, I know how to seat it. And very importantly, I know how to seat it in a blasé way. I know how to seat it so that the going home part seems like not a big deal, right? Seems like not a big deal. And so one part of that is getting the date on your terms and getting it with good logistics, and that comes back to text game and getting her chasing, right? So a lot of my text game, again, is about getting her chasing, having her bought in, so that when you are making plans, she'll go wherever with you. She's like, I would love to see you. And they're like, okay, cool, we're meeting here. Instead of you always tell me, actually give me a why, give me a yes, or a why or a yes. If you guys ever get this where it's like the girl seems to really like you, and then you suggest plans, she's like, well, why don't we meet here instead? Or why don't we meet in the middle? And then you end up on this date, or why don't we meet? I have this like this 1 hour window to see you, right? How much does that suck? How much does that suck? Because you end up on that date where now it can go nowhere, right? And that's the worst. That sucks, because you have a bad date. The girl's like, oh shit, well, it was a bad date. I don't want to see him again, etc. Right? So important to get the girl chasing before the date, so that you get the date on your terms, right? So I talk a ton about how to do that, but essentially you want to have the date with good logistics. I want to make dates. Well, for me, like living in like New York or LA, I live in like walkable areas. Typically I want to make the date within like a 1 to 2 block walk of my place if I can, right? In other cities, sometimes it's not exactly available depending on your logistics, but you want to make it as close and convenient to your place as you possibly can, right? You want to set up a date that can actually go somewhere. And ideally, if it's not so close, you want to set up another way to continue the date to your area, all right? So dates should be like dates to get laid, not date to like go have a fun little evening together, right? Again, similar to what I said in texting, purposeful, but also purposeless, right? So extremely purposeful, extremely brutally efficient and to the point, but at the same time, fun the whole time, right? So it feels like it just happened. So that's what we want to kind of create. And one of the things that I really like doing, I don't do this all the time. I used to literally do this all the time. But then people got used to like Google Maps and you couldn't do it as much. What I used to do back in the day is I'd literally invite the girl to meet at my place, like at my apartment for the day. I just send her the address, she'd meet up, and then she'd be like, hey, is this your apartment? And I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm right upstairs. I'll be right down. I just come meet her and then I'd bring her into the apartment as the start of the date. I wouldn't try and like have sex with her right then and there, but she'd be comfortable having been in my apartment and then getting her back at the end of the date super easy. Nowadays, people Google Maps a lot more, so that's a little dicey to do. But I will do the meetup super, super close to my apartment. And if I can, I will still do that. Like if there's a reason or excuse to go up. So I'm going to show you guys right now an infield date. Just the start of the infield date. Actually, it's just like literally the meet and greet part of the date, where within like less than 2 minutes, I basically am walking the girl up. So basically, you see me meet her on the street corner, make the excuse to go up to my apartment. We walk across the street and there's some like small talk and whatnot, but then basically we walk straight up into my apartment from there. And in this case, she actually like had a bag with her. So she leaves the bag in my apartment so that at the end of the day, she like has to come back. So that's pretty good as well. All right. So have a quick look at this example real quick. And here we go.
This is taking way too long, so she's probably waiting. And
No, it's all good.
Feeling terrible.
I kind of want to go somewhere outside.
So this is us here on the corner, by the way. If you can't see, we're behind this girl walking at the moment.
Is that possible?
Listen to this. I'm right there. Let's move up and Google a place. I know there's one saying great place, but it's not outside. But come.
Oh, okay, cool. What?
You don't have to just all over the place.
No. I didn't put it in, so you'll take it? Like, meaning the check, because I was late first.
Uh-huh.
Because they were, like, fighting over who was going to pay.
Ah, I see.
First part of me.
So you were...
What was it?
That's commercial for a bank.
I live, actually, okay.
Really? You're like my neighbor. You're not really my neighbor. You're the neighbor of where I'm staying.
Oh, you're not staying? You live here?
No, B&B always everything, so it's never... It's never...
All right. So there you guys can see already right at the start of the date going up again. She went up, left the bag there. So then at the end of the date, it's absolutely given that she is going to be coming with. All right. Does that make sense? Okay. The sound cutting out, part of that's the mic, by the way, just so you know. Yeah, there's like a distance issue. The most important thing is the excuse that I made there. Most important thing is that excuse. Like, hey, we'll go upstairs and Google it. Never mind, we could both Google it from our phones, right? It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even make sense, but it's because there's any kind of premise, any kind of excuse, and because I'm very confident and very sure of myself and I just lead, right? Very, very, very important. Whenever you're taking a girl home, whenever you're doing any kind of a pull situation, that entitlement and certainty is absolutely critical. And because I'm certain, she doesn't question it. Massively, massively important. Yeah, go upstairs. Yeah, exactly. Go upstairs to Google it, right? Such total bullshit. Do it from your phone, but whatever. Any reason doesn't matter. The girl already likes you, right? Again, your assumption always, look, if the girl met you for a date, she is saying to herself and the world and you that of all the things she could be doing in her life, you are the number one thing. That's the mentality you should have right now, right? You should have that mentality. And that's actually part of the mentality on my dates is like, yeah, you don't want to have a bad date. You know who doesn't want to have a bad date even more than you? Her. Right? The person who doesn't want to have a bad date even more than you don't want to have a bad date is her. So that's why I'm able to use that to my advantage and get a lot of leverage on dates. And that's how, even though like if you watch my dates, they are boring-ish, right? They actually look a little on the boring side. I bet you guys have better conversation on your dates a lot of times than I do. but I pull mine home 90% of the time and have sex. So, you know, I'm okay with that kind of boredom. It's not so bad. All right. So that's a little bit on the dating stuff, right? Very, very, very important because, again, if you want to get actual results, that is what you are going for. All right. Yeah. Okay, cool. Cool. So real fast, I'll take one or two of the quick questions I'll go through here just to make sure that like you guys are totally getting it. First of all, how many of you guys are liking this content? Give me a Y if you guys are loving the content. Let's see. Let's Google it here. Yeah. When is a number dead? Sort of never, depending. I mean, if the girl says like "fuck off," don't talk to me anymore, or like, girl, oh wow, lots of Y's. That's awesome. Yes. Awesome. Thank you guys. I'm glad you guys are appreciating it. That's really cool. Yeah, if the girl's boyfriend picks up the phone and calls you, or if she says, "Please never text me again," that's when it's dead. But if it's just silence, I've turned around crazy silences. I've turned around crazy silences, especially nowadays with social media and stuff. You can turn around some crazy situations because you can convey your personality in a non-needy way. And the thing with texting is, on a certain level, at least to a little minor amount, every time you send a text specifically to her, it's a little needy, like it's a little invested. But the great thing about social media, which is makes it an amazing tool in texting, is that you didn't send it specifically only to her, so it's not needy and it's not try hard, right? So that helps you even more to turn around numbers. Like I remember when I first the first day I got on Snapchat, literally my first snap, I had a girl that had been flaking on me for like months, and all of a sudden she like called me. I was like, that's insane. That just happened. What the fuck, right? And why? Because it was so non-needy. Right, super non-needy. Let's see what else we got. How do you pull during the conversation? Talk about memes. Yeah, that's in the value offering stuff. It's pretty good. Let's see. Girl says she's busy. Yeah, if the girl says she's busy when you set up a date. Okay, so that's another thing. Is actually that's another thing I wanted to address with you guys. I totally overlooked that. That's actually really good. Okay, so I talked to you guys. I mentioned the soft close. I want to talk to you briefly. This is a new concept that probably you guys have never heard before, but it's so critical and why you get dates. It's what I call soft plans. Okay, soft plans. So I'm going to throw a scenario out there for you. So the scenario is this. Let's say you're texting with this girl. You're making plans. You kind of have like a date for like, let's hang out tomorrow evening, right? What do most guys do then? What most guys do then is they try and take it one step further and nail down a specific time, right? They're like, so does 7 o'clock at this place work for you? And then maybe the girl responds, maybe she doesn't. If she doesn't respond, now you're like, oh, fuck, now what? Right? Because now you're like, oh, shit, does she not like that place? What's going on? Maybe she doesn't get back to you for 12 hours. Do you have the date? Do you not have the date? And you're in this weird limbo, right? And that really sucks. Even if she kind of agrees to the date and time, you're still the next day you're in a little bit of a limbo just because girls are girls, right? As much as you can be confident and assume she's not going to flake, girls sometimes do flake, and you never know, and you don't want to build your plans around it. And so you're in this like weird limbo either way where you're kind of like waiting for her to hear, but at the same time, you don't want to send more text because that'd be super needy. And so my suggestion actually is treat it the same way you would if you were with friends, which is if you really believe the plans are going to happen, you wouldn't be so caught up in nailing them down. You'd be confident it's going to happen, and you just be more whatever, relaxed about it. And so what you do is you get that plan for the next evening. Instead of texting and finalizing it or formalizing it, what I call it keeping a text in reserve. Call it keeping a text in reserve, right? Because now that next day, if she doesn't get back to you, a lot of times, first of all, if you keep a text in reserve there, she's going to text you to make plans. She's going to be like, so does 7 work for you? And now again, she's chasing you because you gave her the opportunity to. If you respond back to every text all the time, you never give her a chance to chase. So number one, she might chase you. Number two, even if you don't, or even if she doesn't chase you, when you say, hey, so this time, whatever, the next day, it makes total sense because it's getting to the point where you need to know that. So there's absolutely nothing needy about it. And when she responds to it, it's a same-day plan. Same-day plans is another little point. Same-day plans are way better than plans way out in the future, right? So you just turned a future plan into a same-day plan. You kept a text in reserve, and you let her chase, right? So I mean most guys need to have that certainty, and that like formal plan fucks them up so bad, and they're losing so many. You're probably losing tons of dates out of that, right? How many people have made that mistake? Give me a why if you've made that mistake where you're like, I want to nail the plans down, and then it gets super awkward after the fact. That used to happen to me so much, and especially it's like a weird never-ending cycle, right? Because if you get flakes, then you get like, well, I have to nail the plans down so I don't get flakes, and then trying to nail the plans down gets you flakes, right? So yeah, like, yeah, lots of whys on that one. Yeah, it's super easy thing to fix, right? This is like one of like just tons and tons of hacks, but like, it's so good. It's so good. This literally, like, you're gonna like a third of your flakes will go away from just that. Okay, like seriously, do it, or don't do it. Technically, don't do it. Hold it in reserve. Keep it there. I call that like the soft close is how I close. It's very, very powerful, and then that's what I call keeping soft plans. All right, let them chase. And let it work itself out that way. And again, when you do follow up, it's more natural, more congruent, that kind of stuff. So very, very, very powerful technique, even though it's super simple, right? Super simple, but very, very powerful. Cool. 1 second. Okay, cool. So texting can be confusing. I understand that. I actually, like, again, that's the reason why we're even doing this training, is because I know going around talking to all my students, everybody's like, I need text game help. I need text game help. I need text game help, right? So texting can be very difficult, but on the other hand, when you get it down, it's actually really, really easy, right? It's actually literally a formula. It's like, imagine in a certain way, text is hard because there's less that you can convey, right? You can't convey your nonverbals, you can't convey your body language, your tone of voice. On the other hand, text is really easy because there's less that she's conveying. So it's very, very easy to like read exactly what she's saying, right? It's very easy. Like there's less complexity to her answers, so you can treat it very systematically. Right? There's also no such thing as state in text, right? She can't read from your text. Was he in state when he was saying this? What was his tone of voice? What was his mood, right? If you get it right, if you write the right words, the text is good, right? So there's on one level, there's less you can do good, but on the other level, there's less you can fuck up. So text actually can be very, very, very easy.